Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome back to the editor guide grind. This is the fourth part so far. We're up to the particle editor, something I've made a video on just trying out, but I never actually looked at the guide for it. So the first thing it tells us is to place this white P on the ground. It's time. New level. Let's go in and we're going to check out the... Oh my god, I forgot I did this. Okay, so I'm going to delete those, reset my colors back to all white, and we're going to go into the particle editor. So I need to put down this object right here, and I go into edit special, which brings up this menu. You can change the movement, color, texture, and more. We're going to go through all the tabs and explain all of the options. You can edit the motion using gravity or radius. Now let's just see what all of these options do, because there's a lot of them. The lifetime is how long they are visible before they disappear. So don't get that confused with duration. Lifetime is the lifetime for each particle, but the duration is how long overall this particle effect will take place. So we have this open. If we increase the lifetime to 2, you'll see the particles take much longer to despawn than they would on something like 0.2. You see, they don't get the distance that they need. But if you have the max particles on like too low, if you have like 10, and you crank the lifetime, then they're going to spawn less often because you can only have 10 at a time. So it's kind of, these kind of go hand in hand is what I'm saying, because you got to have enough maximum particles so that these always spawn. Emission is the rate at what they spawn. You can click the maximum button for the highest possible rate, or the calc button to use the max particles and lifetime values, which I was explaining kind of go together, to generate them at an even rate. This is amazing. So if I only want like 115, oh wait, we keep the duration -1, my bad. Oh, we can click infinite. Yeah, okay. And then lifetime, we'll put them at like 0.4. You just press calculate, and this will constantly spawn a consistent amount. So it's just calculated 164 as the value. I can drag these again, calculate, boom, the emission is calculated. Love that. Maximum just puts it at -1, which seems to be like this beautiful value. You drag the angle slider, it shows you like a little semicircle of where they're gonna go. Pretty self-explanatory. And I can't remember what the default was. We're just gonna put it vertical, so -90, I think. Then the speed, you can just make them go super fast. That's awesome. Or you can slow it down and make them not move. I don't know why you would do this, but I guess it makes a pretty cool edge. You could probably use that for a block if you just warp it a little bit. Then we have gravity, which applies a gravity force to the particles. Positive values is right and up, negative values is left and down. Okay, so you can see there's a green line being shown on the left there, which just varies how much they actually spawn across. Put that on 30. We can do the same for Y, which makes a big box, which is really useful. And then we can have gravity, which goes to the right, and we can have up as well. And then it said negatives are left and down, just like that. Cool! That looks neat! Dude, that's such an easy system. I love this particle editor so much. Let's just put no gravity on these so they just spawn and just do their thing. These are all radius stuff, so start, end, and rotate. So let's just take a look, because it doesn't really explain too much. In the top left, we have radius. And now you see a couple of options disappeared, and we're going to change the start radius. So you can see the circle is going up and down as I'm dragging the slider. It's pretty self-explanatory with... Ooh. Oh! I didn't even check this out the first time I used the particle editor. That's sick. Yo, you can make curves and everything, and then you can rotate. What? What? Yo, I didn't know this was a thing. Wow, that's insane. And look at this thing. This is so beautiful to just play around with. Goodness. You can create some insane stuff with just one trigger. I really underestimated the radius feature. That's sick. Next is the visual tab, which lets you change how the particles look. The start and end colors are customized in the top left of the screen. This is not the top left of anything. Let me show you. Visual. So you can change the color just using these two, or you can put in the RGB values, which I explained in another video. There's so much to explore with the particle editor, dude, and there's so much to explore in the editor guide. We're only on page 40, and we've done so much cool stuff. Oh my god, it's beautiful! These are just start and end values for spinning and the actual size. Then we have start and end values for RGB and opacity. Just gonna skim over this because I have made a video with this system. You can change the size which they end at. Let me just make it smaller so you can see. So they start off small and they end a slightly bit bigger on number 5. We can make them huge by the end of it, which is kind of goofy looking. You can also do it backwards like this, but you don't see too much of a difference because, yeah, there's a giant square in the middle. Let's just get a nice value here. Let's just do like like 8 or something. Yeah, that's pretty visible. And then we could do an end spin, so the actual particles themselves are turning. The plus or minus basically just generates a random number between 0 and 360 to add or take away randomly. What does that button do? Does that just make it the same start and finish? I see. Just click that, it goes to red. So if I made that purple, boom, make it purple all the way. Nice. So start alpha, I can make that 0 opacity to start off with and then end on full, or I can just go backwards here and make it fade out, which is really cool looking, actually. Wow. I like this one. This one's nutty. Now all these values just have like weird looking stuff, but you can add variants to the end values. So I can make it like super red if I wanted to on some of them. It's not the easiest to see because the end opacity is turned down, but I hope, oh, this is the start one. Jeez. Let me turn up the end red. So some of these will be more pink than others going into the ending. And I'm just going to leave it like turned off again because I think that looks cool. Yeah, so you can see a lot of them are just like slightly more pink than the other ones. Can you put negative values in this? I think that would be cool. You can, but then that makes some of them orange. I didn't even know you could do negative variants. I'm learning so much just by being goofy and testing things. So we have free, relative, and grouped, which kind of refers to their behavior. So free particles, if I move, it's kind of going to be in that position all the way across the screen. Whereas if I group them, it's going to sit and just generate there constantly. So it's like, as soon as they get on the screen, they're kind of scrolling with the player when it's on free. And then relative, I don't think I understand that just yet. I think that's to do with movement of the particles. So I've put it on group 1. If I just move it like 200 over to the right for 3 seconds, let's just see what that does. So that's spawning new particles at the spot where the particle's at. But how does it work on something like grouped? Will that just keep them... So grouped definitely moves the whole particle across. But relative, it's like, yeah, the old particles are at that position. But as it's moving, it's generating new particles all the way across in its new position and letting them play out as if they stayed at that point. Let's just say right here, it spawned a particle over here, which is completely living its lifetime as if it's never moving. And then free just seems like it's just wherever it wants to go. That's the best way I can really explain it, because the guide doesn't show too much, but you can see the difference between grouped, relative, and free for sure. They all have completely different behavior, and that's for moving the particle. Now, what I don't get is the friction. I just don't understand this thing. So if I turn the friction position up, they barely move on this model. So these are just like weird extra little hindsight settings, it feels like. You would never create with these in mind. It's just like, oh, how can I improve the smoothness of the particles? Like these ones are super important. The free and grouped, that's really important for moving. Dynamic rotation, particles rotate to face the direction that they're going. That's cool. So let me go and disable all of this friction and let's turn on the dynamic rotation. So the particles here, when they're rotating, it's kind of overridden the rotation that I put on them in the first place. You see, it's kind of random. This one is making it so if it's going towards this angle, it will constantly be that way. That's kind of useful. I can see it being useful for like the texture being a line, but we're going to get into textures soon. See, these are going in their like respective direction. You can definitely tell. But let's just go back to regular particles and finish off the extras tab. Animate on trigger. So if you have an animated object, the objects freeze on the first frame. They begin their animation when an animate trigger triggers. You can just activate them whenever you want with an animation trigger. Not really much different to toggling, at least as far as I can see. Order sensitive, orders particles with newest ones on top. Okay. This does absolutely nothing with additive checked, by the way. So you can see that some particles are on top of others based on how they've spawned in order. Most of the time, I'm going to be putting this on additive, so I'm not going to be using that. So quick start makes this thing spawn in like instantly. Like normally when you have this particle and you turn off quick start, it starts off and you have the particles kind of generate in, but quick start is pretty useful actually because it just immediately has like a maximum number of particles spawning in. That's cool. Then we have the texture tab and you can just choose the actual object in the particle. I love this editor so much. This goes so hard. The glow objects, especially on their big size. Dude, it's beautiful. Whoa. That's not what I'm going to do at all. I'm going to go radius and I'm going to go, yeah, like this. Wow. Wow, it's beautiful. It's actually beautiful. Look at this thing. And size, huge. Start size, pretty big too. Yep, look how good this thing looks, dude. Instant background. Simple as that. And we can make the lifetime super long as well. We can even make that 4 seconds. Then we can just calculate the emission. Wait a second. That's insane. You can click on the green lines. Oh my goodness, you can change the outer line. Oh. And then what does this change? The angle? Okay, love that. 1, 2, and 3 is so useful. That's probably the best way to even make particles, just by dragging it. The C button recenters the particles if you move them around, and the last colored button changes the background color of the editor. And then we're moving on to items. Okay, this has went on for way longer than I expected, but... oh, so you could just see how it would look with the background of this level. That's so neat. Love that. And then if you see, it centers it. Got it. Boom. Lovely stuff. Thank you so much for watching this Geometry Dash editor guide video. Check out the editor guide. It's linked in the description. It's made by Viprin and AutoNick. Stay tuned for more. I'm uploading this like twice a week. I'm gonna do the whole thing, dude. Thank you so much for watching. Check the links in the description. Leave a like and subscribe, and have a good day.